Excellent. Gareth Dinneen, co-founder
Sorry.
of the 10-14 Rugby. Big news this week, Ronan O'Gara's move to the Crusaders for next season. I suppose a bit of a bolt out of the blue in one way, but maybe not in another, considering Dan Carter had his ear at Racing Metro for the last 2 years. How's that move been viewed in New Zealand?
Well, I think it's a bolt out of the blue. And if you jump onto like what you're getting in media and social media is, the trolls are out there. They don't understand it. New Zealand rugby can at times be quite myopic and one-eyed, and they're not. Some people wouldn't be aware of who Ronan O'Gara is. Some people are not too keen on outsiders. So we're tucked down here on the bottom of the world, and in many ways, Limerick people can be quite like that. You got to really prove yourself to them before they completely take you in and trust you. So there's a little bit about that going on, but the people that know their stuff, Richie McCaw included, are welcoming this with open arms. They think it's a very smart move. People that know O'Gara's track record as a player, and his people that have followed Dan Carter to Racing, um, they'd be well aware of Ronan O'Gara. And we did an interview on our site about 2 months ago, I think, with Scott Robertson, who's going to be Ronan's head coach and boss. Let's put it like that. And we asked him what was the main difference in the game if we take Rugby World Cups as road marks. What's between the 2015 Rugby World Cup and now? What's the main difference in the game? And he said defence. And he said you could see in the Lions tour the way the All Blacks struggled with that line speed, Lions defence. And so I asked him, do you think this is why the gap between the North and the South is lessening since the last World Cup? Because the northern teams are more used to the rugby league style defence, and had rugby league's defence coaches for the last 10 years. And he said exactly. So I think it's a shrewd move from the Crusaders. Ronan O'Gara has been defence coach with a European team, and they know that the northern hemisphere teams are leading the way in defence. So this is a very smart progressive move from perhaps the most elite think tank in world rugby, the Crusaders. They've won more super titles than anybody else. They're possibly the best club team in the world. So they don't take decisions that aren't quite calculated. This is really shrewd from them, and their real fans know that.
I suppose from O'Gara's point of view, this guy is certainly broadening his coaching horizons. He'll have coached in France, he'll have coached in New Zealand. Many people will be, I suppose, penciling him in for the Munster job and possibly the Ireland job later on in his career. But even from him to increase his knowledge base and to see, speaking with guys who've come through the French system, there's a different culture in France, there's a different culture in Ireland. From a cultural point of view, with regards to the game and how it's conducted in a professional sense, what do you think differences he'll see when he gets to New Zealand?
Well, there's again going back to Scott Robertson and what he was telling us, and also we did. So I'm not plugging interviews on my website, but we've just been talking to these super rugby people over the last while. We spoke to Avon Lee, who's the CEO of the Hurricanes, and everybody from outside New Zealand tries to find out what is the secret sauce of New Zealand rugby and their structures, and the main secret to it is transparency. They all share ideas. Now, could you imagine Munster and Leinster or the Welsh regions sitting down, like the CEOs and the coaches, and sharing not game plans, but, like, for example, on the Lions tour, they had a debrief on how the individual franchises or teams coped with the Lions' defence, what solutions they worked out, and that kind of transparency. Everything is geared towards the top. Scott Robertson, the Crusaders coach, was talking about his mentor being Rob Penny. He's worked under Steve Hansen, Wayne Smith, who many people consider the best coach in rugby of all time. And they're just the transparency down here and the level of sharing ideas is going to be something that Rog is going to plug into, and it goes right to the top of the tree in New Zealand rugby. It goes right up to All Black level. So he's going to become privy to what the All Blacks, what their coaching messages are, it's going to be completely different to the French system and the Irish system. And I think Irish rugby, not just Munster rugby, are going to really reap the benefits of what Raj is going to soak up down in the Crusader land.
He's like I think you said as well. He's also entering a serious winning culture, a winning mentality. Do you think we all remember O'Gara as a player, very much the kind of 10 who could control territory, control the game with his tactical kicking. Do you think that he'll bring a bit of that kind of emphasis down there? I know he's going in there as as backs coach, I think. What do you think O'Gara will bring to the New Zealand system?
I think definitely they've got, like, Moanga is their 10. They've been struggling to get a consistent 10 since Carter has left. And Tyler Blandall was one of the guys in their ranks, and he kind of, so they need to get an established 10, and I presume that's going to be, I've heard from newspaper reports down here in interviews that Moanga himself is very excited, from a 10's point of view, to have somebody like Ronan O'Gara there and just to learn from him. But I think, yeah, of course, Raj had that elite kicking game, and he knew every blade of grass in Thomond Park and the Aviva, and he'd put the ball into corners and stuff. But he also played most of his career with Brian O'Driscoll, one of the most, the most gifted outside back that we've ever had. And a lot of the time, do you remember those beautiful flat passes that Raj used put to put O'Driscoll into space? So he knows how to he knows that side of the rugby field, the attacking side, how to put guys into space, how to run the whole back line. And after working with Racing as a defence coach, obviously he has studied how to unlock defences. So I think that's why they're going to be very interested in him down here. Um, I know Richie McCall came out during in the media as well this week, said, and he thinks he's a former Crusader himself. He thinks it's a really good coup to keep the Crusaders on the head of the pack and bring in a Northern Hemisphere influence. But I think Raj is he seems to obviously be taking his coaching career very seriously, and he's even availing of that week that he had over the summer to go with Joe Schmidt and learn his ways. It's I think it's going to be very exciting to see how he goes down here, and there's a lot of Irish down in Canterbury as well, in Christchurch, particularly since the awful earthquake down there in 2011, and coinciding with a recession in Ireland, a lot of tradesmen and labour people, skilled people went down from Ireland. They got their visas, so he's going to be quite at home with the Irish contingent down in Christchurch as well.
I think that was one of the things O'Gara said, that he could leave the training ground in Racing and he could go out in Paris, and he was pretty much anonymous, and it was the same for a lot of the Racing players. Is the rugby atmosphere in New Zealand a bit more of a goldfish bowl? Will he still be that anonymous once he leaves the Canterbury's training pitch during the week, or are the public a bit more clued in as to the faces of the team?
Though they might know Ronan O'Gara, and this is bizarre for us to think, because people, particularly in Limerick, know All Black squad members, guys that even they're subs. They know guys that aren't even on the subs, but they it's not an arrogance, but um, they don't watch Northern Hemisphere rugby on TV, so a lot of these people might know who Raj is, and unless you beat them, they they struggle with a respect level. And again, it's not an arrogance. And just to put it just a little insight into it, for example, since the Lions tour left here and the November test started, I don't think I've seen a box kick, and I've watched a lot of rugby down here. So that that kind of box kicking for wingers is stuff that they don't. You sometimes even hear them jeering for drop goals when they're watching rugby. They love open style running rugby. I don't know if a lot of them are going to know Raj. They're going to know about him being in the press, but certainly when he gets here and after his first press conference, they're going to know exactly who he is on the streets. And I think they're going to be quite curious about him. And if Dan Carter is coming out and Richie McCall telling them that this guy is the real deal, that they're going to take that on board. Another interesting slant on the Crusaders as well, Raf, is that on that interview that Scott Robertson was saying, he says, we don't want to breed Crusaders here, we want to breed All Blacks. So Ronan is going to go into a setup with not just All Blacks everywhere, and those guys demand a very high level of coaching to keep them interested, and these guys have been approached by a lot of clubs, or big French, English clubs, for a lot of money. And one of the main reasons they stay in New Zealand is, of course, they want to get that black jersey, but they want to be challenged as coaches, for challenged as players on a coaching level. So Roger's going to have to come in and really, he's going to really be challenged by these guys. But not alone have they got All Blacks all over the place, they've got the All Black captain there. And the last, Richie McCaw was All Black captain, and now Kieran Reid. So he really is going into the top level in world rugby, and it's just going to be really good for hopefully Munster rugby in the future and Irish rugby, what he's going to learn. I don't think there's a club in the world that he could pick that is going to increase his learning more than the Crusaders.